Hey there, this is Natalie, and now it's time for ReZero Arc 6 Chapter 84, as decoded from Google Translate. I know people keep saying in the comments that other translation systems are better for fiction, but I'm carrying on with Google Translate rather than switching to another machine translation, in the hope that it might offer us another gem on the coming chapters, like its weird translation of Julius's divine protection in Chapter 82. There are a couple of weird bits in this one that are quite funny, but nothing quite as good as that again yet. Now, after the focus on Ram and Leibat and Kaitos in the last two chapters, in Chapter 83 we return to Emilia and Volcanica. This is just for this chapter though, as Chapter 84 returns to Julius and Rita Straya, so the mystery at the end of this chapter hasn't yet been explored any further, so feel free to speculate about it in the comments. I'll be saying who I think the handprints might belong to when we get to that part at the end, but it's all wild guessing at this stage. So the chapter begins with Emilia thinking about how she's mastered her Icebrand arts abilities with Subaru's help. It tells us that the techniques rely strongly on visualization, and so Emilia had studied painting to get the skills. It says that she found painting hard to study, unlike singing, which is a joke from the author at Emilia's expense, because it's been established that Emilia is tone deaf and a terrible singer. It says, while studying, seeing Emilia drawing with Subaru and Beatrice, Ram was amazed, Otto smiled, Frederica and Petra were occasionally mixed, and Garfield advised me how to do this. Roswell also occasionally saw Emilia and Beatrice side by side drawing from a distance. Emilia thinks of a very, very important and irresistible memory. It may have disappeared from everyone, but Subaru remembers it. When I think about it, I feel warm in the back of my chest. I'll change that into courage. So this is referencing the fact that nobody but Subaru currently remembers Emilia. Now she uses her Icebrand arts and that visualization and creates her ice soldiers. They all look like Subaru. It says, driven by the feelings that spring up, Emilia challenges the Shinryu Volcanica in front of her with the ice weapons she created and the 7 ice soldiers who move forward together. As explained above, image is important for shaping ice. It's the same with weapons as well as the created ice soldiers. After all, the ice soldiers were solidified in Emilia's easy-to-imagine form. Early on, 7 Natsuki Subarus will fight with Emilia. But it's stronger than the real Subaru, and it's quick. Subaru's not defeated in terms of skill and energy, but he is fundamentally different from the soldiers made of ice. The strength of the soldiers depends on the density of mana given by Emilia, which is incomparable to a simple ice sculpture. And so, with Emilia's massive amounts of mana, these ice soldiers are, it says, as strong as steel. Now she makes the ice Subarus attack Volcanica, but Volcanica seems to be intent on protecting the central pillar that Emilia thinks must be something important to the test, and as the soldier aims for it, it says, there's a strange sound that can only be expressed as a hole in the wind, and immediately after that the upper body of the leading ice soldier shatters into a fine dust. The direct hit was around the chest, where the ice soldier's torso was smashed in half, and the unsightly Subaru-like head blew off. Volcanica says the same line that's been all he's ever said since Emilia arrived here, and she wonders what long-forgotten promise the dragon is keeping, protecting the pillar. She keeps trying to get past by having her ice soldiers attack, but as I've said with the previous chapters, it's quite hard to properly understand the blow-by-blow parts of the action scenes, with only the machine translation. So we'll have to wait for a proper chapter translation to get a really good view of the movements of the soldiers and the dragon. What's important is that Volcanica easily gets rid of all but the last of Emilia's ice soldiers, and she still hasn't managed to reach the pillar. Now it says, the last ice soldier wields a so-called Sasumata weapon. At the tip of the handle, which looks like a long spear, a metal fitting that draws a curve to hold down the opponent instead of piercing it is attached, and it seems that it is called a catcher. Now this last soldier, and 3 cracked soldiers who fell down before him, all work to use these weapons to basically pin down Volcanica's tail, which it says is as thick as a log, even at the thinnest point. But the dragon quickly slashes with its front foot, and with its claws destroys all 4 of the ice soldiers trying to pin his tail. Emilia notices that the ice weapons are still actually pinning the tail, even though the soldiers have been shattered, though Google Translate, for reasons known only to itself, refers to this as an ice crotch. Emilia's happy that this meant the loss of the soldiers wasn't in vain, but now Volcanica's claws are coming for her. But it says, the ice spear approaches the dragon past Emilia sooner than its claws can catch Emilia. It's an ice soldier that was created in its initial position behind Emilia. Up to 7 ice soldiers can Emilia create, but they can be created each time they're crushed. In other words, the ice soldier can stand up as many times as he wants until Emilia runs out. It's just like the real Subaru Natsuki. Volcanica repeats his line again. Now Emilia gets the idea that perhaps what she needs to do isn't to do with the pillar itself, but something at the top of the pillar. And so with the help of the ice soldier giving her a boost to her jump, she jumps over the dragon's head and begins to climb the pillar, creating scaffolding with ice as she does to help her do it. She gets out of the reach of the claws and tail, and Volcanica tries to blast her with fire, but she can dodge that because she's good at climbing. She remembers being told off by Fortuna and Arch for climbing trees so much when she was a child in Elior Forest. But next she sees Volcanica stretch out his wings. Emilia doesn't think dragons can fly. It says, it's natural to fly because it's god dragon Volcanica, but Emilia has never seen a flying dragon, so it wasn't realistic. In the first place, can a creature with such a big body really fly in the sky? I've only seen Puck and Roswell flying. It's inevitable that Puck the spirit and Roswell the eccentric wizard can fly. She'd heard that there are flying dragons called pterosaurs in the southern Valakia Empire, like earth dragons and water dragons. Is Volcanica like that pterosaur? Or is it wrong to think of a dragon and a dragon in the same way? But to Emilia's surprise, Volcanica can indeed fly, and so she's really just climbing now as fast as she can. Volcanica repeats his line, and Emilia realises that the voice is no longer beneath her, but alongside her. Now Volcanica tries to attack with his tail. Emilia blocks it with ice-brand weapons and keeps climbing. Now she makes ice soldiers with only their torsos sticking out of the pillar to help her climb up. Since she doesn't have to make legs, she's able to make more than 7 when she does this. This is going to look really weird when it eventually gets animated. All these ice versions of Subaru's upper body coming out of the pillar and helping her climb while attacking the dragon with ice weapons. If this makes it into the light novel version in the anime, it's going to be pretty cool. It says, Volcanica, trapped in the habit of protecting the pillars, cannot leave the ice soldiers on the pillars. The born ice soldier throws an ice sword or axe towards Volcanica in the air, and while playing it, the dragon hunts the pillar's ice soldiers one by one, with its tails and front legs. However, in the meantime, Emilia goes up, up, up. But Volcanica hits the pillar hard with its tail, causing it to shake. Emilia falls off, and the ice soldier she reaches out for can't grip onto her, its arm breaking off. Now Emilia falls, and the way it describes this in Google Translate speak is, Emilia was supposed to fall tens of meters at the height of the pillar she was trying to climb. However, something unexpectedly caught Emilia's ass, which was breathtaking with that premonition. Not an ice soldier. Sensually, all the ice soldiers on the pillar were crushed. Emilia's ass was indeed breathtaking. She reaches down and feels that she's landed on something hard, and as the dragon says his line again, Emilia realises she's landed on his back. Volcanica is flying freely now and twisting as if trying to shake her off. It takes all of Emilia's will to even open her eyes with the strong winds attacking her body as the dragon flies, but she thinks about how she has to be strong so she can finish this and get back to Subaru and the other people she cares about. As she's finally able to force her eyes open, she sees that the dragon is out in the blue sky, and since the dragon she's riding is also blue, all she can see is blue all around her. She notices that the dragon isn't really flapping its wings to fly, like a bird or an insect, and wonders if dragonflight involves something magical, like the way Puck and Roswell can fly, even though they don't have wings to flap. Volcanica repeats his line again, and Emilia notices one thing she can see that isn't blue, and it's a single white scale on Volcanica's neck. She thinks back to times playing with Puck, and it gives her an idea that she should try to tickle the white scale to make Volcanica lose concentration. She can't reach, but she spawns ice soldiers, and they help each other until one of them manages to reach the scale. Now it says, there is a word called reverse scale. Originating from an old Chinese story, the mythical existence of the dragon has only one scale on its neck that should not be touched, and it's called reverse scale. It's said that the dragon touched by the reverse scale gets angry and will surely kill the opponent. From that fact, it came to be expressed by the phrase touching the reverse scale, to touch the part that the other party should not touch. Of course, Emilia has no way of knowing the origins of such different world sayings. The purpose of trying to touch the white scale on the dragon's neck was to disturb the concentration of the opponent, who flew around vigorously, creating a gap. However, and then we see that the dragon seems to be in great pain after having his no-no scale touched, and Emilia is thrown off. She lands on the ground below her and manages to land safely with a roll. Now it says, looking around, Emilia's visibility is one step higher than when she arrived. The lack of the 6 pillars that should be around is a sign that Emilia has reached above the tips of those pillars. That is, this is the top layer. I arrived in the form of being shaken off from Volcanica's back, at the top of the Pleiades watchtower, to an unprecedented place. Finally. Well, I did it. It was worth the effort. Emilia made a small reaction to the event and immediately rushed to the centre of the top layer. If you're leaning back, the writhing Volcanica will come back. Before that happens, we have to find a test to help Subaru and the others. So she's desperate to find out what the exam on this layer is in time to help Subaru and everybody else. And she says, please give me a problem that I can understand. Now she reaches the one central pillar that there is on this floor, hoping to find out what the trial is and what she's supposed to do. And at the base of it is a black monolith, and she sees that it has handprints on it. Weirdly, Google Translate refers to the handprints as people's bills, but this is supposed to mean handprints. It says, at the top of the Pleiades watchtower, at the base of the central pillar, is a black monolith, and a bill was stamped on the black monolith. 6 different male and female bills were pressed. So that's the end of the chapter, but who do you think the 6 handprints belong to? And what do you think this means? The number 6 is one we normally think of as associated with the witches or sin archbishops, being all of the sins except for envy. But if it were the witches, it wouldn't specify both men and women's handprints were there, which it seems it actually does in the Japanese, according to tweets about this chapter I've seen from people who've read it in Japanese. So that isn't a Google Translate interpretation. I've seen people suggest all kinds of combinations of people, but the theory I have at the moment is that it's not something like that, but that it's 6 of the people in the party challenging the tower. I think that maybe they were all supposed to reach the top to complete the trial of the tower. Perhaps everyone who touched a monolith in the first trial was recorded as having entered to take on the trials, and their handprints now show up here. Perhaps they're now all supposed to touch this new monolith to prove that they made it this far and end the trials. And if that's the case, it will be a new spanner in the works for Emilia, because obviously she's on her own. Maybe she might try and hack it by recreating everyone as ice clones, which would be a big test for that new skill of hers, as she's only been able to make Subaru, who she can visualise the most clearly before. I don't know, that's just my wild guess. It could honestly be anything. I'm just tempted to say it's more likely to be something related to the party themselves than a deep lore thing. For some reason, that's the feel I get from it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'm sure it won't be that long until we find out in the next Emilia chapter we get. That's all for this video. I'm going to go now and get on with chapter 85, which is a really good one, so I hope to see you soon for that.